trying to contain things a bit in the Zoom room for that reason. And so we invite you during the course of this hour to use the chat screen. I have a co-host, my colleague Claudia Silk is here, and she is co-hosting with me, and she'll be managing the chat room. She's also going to manage helping everybody into the room. As you can see, people keep coming into the room, so we will be doing that. So it's the one thing about Zoom that's a little bit tricky is that depending upon what kind of device you're on, it can be difficult to explain. But I have an iPad, so on my device in the upper right-hand corner is 3 dashes, and when I tap on that, it says chat, and then that brings up your chat screen. So you may have to look around if you're on a PC or if you're on your phone. But at somewhere you can see at some point, somewhere in the navigation, you'll see chat, and feel free to use that. Getting started, I'm so happy that you're all here today for Cut the Cord. And so let's begin. Again, I will say that my name is Philip Bahr. I'm head of adult services for Fairfield Public Library in Fairfield, Connecticut. I'm very excited to be here today with you doing a virtual program. Adult services, what that means is that my department manages all of the things that the library does to support our adult population. So we have a children's department, we have a teens department, and we have an adult services department. It used to be called Reference years ago, but we changed it to adult services about 2 years ago to put it in line with children's and teens to make it more understandable. I created Cut the Cord in 2014, so that was 6 short or long years ago, depending upon how you look at that. And I have been living without cable or satellite TV for 12 years now. So those are kind of my credentials for today. Just a quick disclaimer. I do want to remind everyone that we are recording this today, and it will be uploaded to YouTube. And that's why we're keeping everyone silent. And if you ask a question in chat, it won't pop over, like nobody's going to see your face or anything like that. But I did want to give that as a disclaimer. Okay. And then the other disclaimers are just part of what I've been doing for 6 years with Cut the Cord. So all of the information that you hear today is a combination of my personal experience using these devices and using these services, and then my knowledge that I've gathered from authoritative sources online. So it may not reflect the beliefs or opinions or views of Fairfield Public Library or the town of Fairfield. And also, I'm not getting any sort of compensation or gifts from any of the companies that we talk about today or any of the organizations. So just so you know that we're sort of looking at this from that perspective. And the final thing is that the choices are enormous. We're not going to cover everything today, but we will discuss major trends and options. And I will be emailing everyone a copy of the YouTube video. And also, I have a list of contacts at the end. Everything that I've used to put this PowerPoint together for today and for tomorrow night, I'm going to send that a list of those as well. So it's all the different websites that I've used and the articles that I've used to compile this together. So this afternoon, we're going to start with part 1. And so we're doing an introduction to Cut the Cord for everyone that really needs to start at the beginning. So I hope that's all of you that are here today. So today will be, if you want to describe it, it will be a lot more traditional. It will be more of a lecture with questions. Claudia will be looking at questions along the way. So if there's something that's pertinent to the section that I'm in, she'll cut in and let me know about that for me to answer it. If it's something that can wait till later, I'll do that. And anything that I'm perhaps not covering, but you have a question about, I can answer that at the end when we go through that. And then tomorrow evening, if you want to come back for tomorrow evening, that's really when we are going to take this and really dive deep. So we will look at all of the things that we talk about today, but we will look at them in a much deeper level tomorrow night. And that's going to be a little bit different. I do have an agenda for tomorrow, just like I have an agenda for today, but I'll be probably a little bit looser tomorrow because I'm going to really rely on the information and knowledge that a lot of the more experienced users that are coming into the program will have. So I have experience with a certain set number of things in Cut the Cord, and I will hopefully hear from other people that will be able to guide us to, hey, this works for me, this didn't work for me, etc. So today more of a lecture, tomorrow more of a guided conversation. And then what's been updated. So as I mentioned, I've done this for 6 years. I haven't done it for the last 2 years. And primarily I've been hesitating lately only because it is a huge, huge industry now. There are enormous amounts of choices and it can sort of be overwhelming. It can be overwhelming for the consumer. Absolutely, that's why we're all here today. But it can also be a bit overwhelming to organize all of this. So I hope today that we're going to take things very clearly and with one example from each area that we're going to talk about. And then tomorrow we'll dig a little bit deeper. So previous years, I spent a lot of time explaining how streaming works. I'm going to talk about that very briefly today, but I don't think we really need to focus on that as much because we're sort of in this era now where we understand streaming, even if we're not streaming ourselves. And then I will also give, as I said, one example from each area covered. So I decided to start off with this headline because I thought it was really interesting. Last month in Cord Cutter News, which is a great website for you to go to for information about the subject that we're talking about today, cordcutternews.com. This great headline that said more than half of the homes won't have cable by 2022, which I thought was just pretty incredible. When I first started this 6 years ago, I believe it was maybe, I don't know, 15 or 20%. And then when we hit that 25% marker, it was very exciting. And now we're looking at by 2022, 54% of the households will not have cable. So it's just been a very interesting shift in the way people really look at how they get their media and how they want to get their media, which when I say media, I'm talking about television and film. So one of the things that I really want all of you to leave here today, if you are still somebody who has a cable or satellite subscription 100% and you're not doing any cord cutting at all, you're not doing any streaming services, I want you to figure out, is it time? And that is really a personal question that only you can answer. So hopefully I will give you the tools today that will allow you to answer that question for yourself. And if you have follow-up questions afterwards, there'll be an email at the end of this that will send you to that. So you can certainly follow up with some additional questions. I'm always happy to help. So our agenda this afternoon is, the first thing I love to do is I really like to take a moment and step back from this instead of just jumping right in. Because one of my favorite things to ask people is, what kind of a television viewer are you? So when we get into this very first section, you'll see that there were ways of watching television a long time ago when we were younger, and this landscape is extremely different today. So what kind of a viewer are you? And that's going to help you decide whether you can really leave cable behind or whether you want to hold on to it. And it may be, some of you may really want to stay with cable, and that's perfectly fine. So I'm not here to sway you in one direction or the other. I'm just here to give you some bullet points and some information and data that'll help you make that decision in a more clear way. Then we're going to very briefly talk about what is streaming, and then we're going to talk about how to stream things onto your television. So today and tomorrow night, I'm going to speak specifically about that big TV that's in your house, whether it's in your living room or your family room. Of course, you can do streaming on a tablet. I'm on a tablet today doing this PowerPoint with you in Zoom. You can stream on your phone, you can stream on a computer, a laptop, or a desktop. So there's all kinds of ways of streaming, but we're really today and tomorrow going to focus 100% on that big TV in your living room. So in order to stream onto your TV, we're going to talk about streaming devices and give one example of a very popular streaming device. We're also going to talk about live TV options, because I believe that's the #1 question on anybody's mind is, if I leave cable, how am I going to get live TV? How am I going to be able to watch the news? How am I going to be able to watch I don't know, is American Idol still on? I'm not even sure, but you know, shows that are live that are on TV where you would sit down at a certain time to watch them. And then we're going to talk about media streaming services, which is really those companies who have products that you think of when you think of cutting the cord. So we're talking about Netflix and things like that. And then the final wrap up will be talking about cost. So that, I feel like that's really the other #1 question. Everyone wants to know about cost. So the best way for me to do that, I'm just going to lay out what I spend per month. It may be radically different than the kinds of services and the content that you want, but at least it will give you a start to sort of look at, okay, I need this, I don't need that. And then we're going to wrap up with resources at the end, which I mentioned on email after tomorrow night's is over. So that's our agenda. Let's get started. So this is really one of my favorite things to talk about. I've been doing this for 6 years. When I went to change all these slides last week and really update this so that it's as current as can possibly be, I kept this in because I think it's really great, especially if you're new to cutting the cord. It's great to sort of sit back, take a breath before we become overwhelmed with all these choices and think, what kind of a television viewer am I? And so I like to look at the way we watch television in the past and the way we currently consume TV and movies on our either television or on our devices. So obviously, most of us grew up in a time period where TV, there was maybe one TV in your house, or if you were lucky, you had an extra one in the kitchen or somebody's bedroom. But there was one television, and maybe you had cable, or maybe you're like me and you grew up with an antenna on top of your roof. And you had a certain amount of channels that were accessible before cable came along, and it was a very limited spectrum of shows. And also, you were really tied into if your favorite show is Ed Sullivan and it's Sunday night, it's time to figure out, like, when do I get the dishes done so I can get into the living room in time to watch this show, because there was no taping of the show, there were no DVRs, there weren't even VHS players or VHS recorders. So you really had to think about TV. So I call that passive viewing because I feel like the TV was really controlling your viewing habits. And then slowly, as I mentioned, with VHS players came along and then DVR capability came along, we started going into a more active role where we could tape our favorite shows and then watch them later, or we could tape them and save them to watch them over and over again. Till the point where we get today, which is where most of our content is really driven by our personal needs. So if it's Friday night and I've had a rough day at work and I want to watch something light and fun, I can turn on Netflix or I can turn on Amazon Prime, and I can just go directly to the television show or the film that I'm interested in and press play, and everything is there for me. It's a huge catalog or a huge library of media there for me to consume whenever I want on my own schedule. So those are a few of the things that I think it's important to think about when we talk about this subject, because the way that you consume media is going to really determine whether you can leave cable completely, whether you want to hold on to cable completely, or whether you want to do sort of a mix, which a lot of people do. So now we get to what is streaming. And again, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because this is really technical. I do have a link in here for Wikipedia if you want to look at that. And the next slide actually has a great video. It's a very short video that talks about what streaming is. But basically what streaming is the internet. Somewhere on the internet, someone is sending you either a television show to watch or a film to watch. But instead of them sending that entire file over at once, it gets sent in little packets. So that's why occasionally when you turn on your TV, if you already have streaming products, and you press play on something, it'll be a little bit grainy. I don't know if you've ever noticed that. It doesn't happen all the time anymore, but in the beginning it happened almost all the time. But it might be, the screen might be just slightly grainy for the first, 5 or 10 seconds, and then it clears up and gets HD. And that's what that is. It's all those packets going towards it. So that's all I really want to talk about, because like I said, if you're somebody that wants to dig a little bit deeper, the next slide that I have is a YouTube video. It's 10 years old, but it's still great because the definition of streaming has not changed in the last 10 years. It's the same thing it was when we started all of this. This is from butterscotch.com, which is a YouTube channel, and you can get this video on there. So feel free, you can watch that on your own. Okay, so if you leave here today not remembering anything except one thing, the one thing I want you to remember is that in order for you to do anything, in order to be able to do anything that we talk about today and tomorrow, you must have an internet connection in your home. So that's what all of this hinges on. You can leave cable, you can get rid of your cable 100%, meaning that you can get rid of all of those live channels, but you will still have to figure out how to get an internet connection for your home. For a lot of us, that means we buy our internet connection from cable. So all we do for Optimum in Fairfield is we pay optimum for our internet connection, and we have no cable TV channels at all. So that's what you need to get started in all of this. You really need to have an internet connection. Now I'm going to play a video for you, and I have to give just a little bit of a warning here. I'm sharing my screen that has all of my slides on it in a different way than I did this morning when I tried this out. So I am hoping this is going to work, and if not, we will just have to refer to the slides afterwards. So I'm going to turn this on, and if my co-host Claudia will text me if this works, just give me a second. How does that sound? Is everybody, are you hearing that and seeing it? Oops, okay. I just heard that it's not happening, which I was afraid of. Okay. All right, so these are the issues that happen. We're all new to Zoom, and I do apologize. Over the weekend when I tried this, it did not work. This morning we uploaded it, or we shared it using a different choice, and it did work. And then this afternoon when I logged in to start this Zoom with you, that choice was not even available. And I checked with a colleague of mine who helps us with our Zoom account, Nancy Sweeney, and she just didn't have that information. So we'll have to just keep going on. So if you're interested, you can watch this. It's an under 3-minute video, and it basically just talks about the 4 things that you need to stream TV on a budget. But we're going to go through all of that, so there's no need. I just thought it was a nice way to watch something and not listen to my voice for 3 minutes. So we'll just continue on. All right. So the very first thing after you determine that you do have an internet connection in your house and you have access to Wi-Fi in your home. So now you want to bring the internet into your TV, because that's how we stream. In other words, the way that if you want to start watching films or TV shows through Netflix or Amazon Prime or Hulu or any of the huge amount of options out there, you have to figure out a way to get the internet into your television set. And the way that you do that, there's two choices for you to do that. The first choice, and I will be focusing on this quite a bit, we'll do an example of one today, and tomorrow we'll talk about this in detail. But there are devices, there are physical products that you can buy. It's a one-time purchase, and you buy either a box that looks similar to your cable box if you have it, or you can buy what they call a stick, which looks like a memory stick for your computer, and you plug those directly into your television set, and then you have access to that device. Gives you access to all of the different apps or applications that you would want in order to start streaming. So that's choice number one. Choice number two is using your smart TV, if you have a smart TV, and using the apps that are already embedded in that television. So those are the two choices. You can use the apps that are already there if you have a TV that's pretty, and I would say like in the last, I don't know, 7 years or so, if your TV's like 7 years or younger, you're probably going to have a smart television with apps on it. So you can certainly use those. If you don't have that, or if you're like me and you just want to use a particular a device, then you buy a device, plug it into your TV, either a box or a what they call a stick, and then you just turn on your television, and then it'll walk you through the way to get started, and then you're literally using that box. That gives you an interface similar to the interface that's on your computer or on your telephone, and it gives you a way to it organizes all of this for you. Two reasons why you might want to use the box or the stick over just the traditional apps that are already on your TV for your smart TV. Number one, and I lost my train of thought here, sorry about that. So you're going to, the reasons why you're going to want to you might want to use a set box or a stick instead. So I find, and this is it's this personal experience, when I got my new television, which is about 1.5 years old, I did try to use the apps that were on the television. However, I felt like they were not working as well as they could have. So I sort of, and I can't blame it on the apps because the apps work independently. So I feel like it was the operating system that my television was using, which obviously the TV companies are putting most of their development and energy and resources into actually creating televisions, not the applications, or not the operating system that contains all the applications. So I switched over to a Amazon Fire TV stick, and it works perfectly, and I feel really good. It also, the second part, I said there was 2 reasons why you might want to do that. The second thing is that your TV is going to have a very limited amount of apps. In the beginning, they might have had 5 or so. Now they probably have 35 or 40, or maybe up to 100. But literally, there's going to be thousands of different apps on either a stick or a set-top box. So those are just 2 of the reasons why you might want to choose one or the other. But either one will get you content so that you can start streaming. So this is just a follow-up to how to stream. So obviously, your TV needs to be connected to the internet, and then you either need to use your smart TV or a streaming device. Now, this is a short video on what exactly is a streaming media device. And I hope that I have covered most of that in what I just said, but I will talk about some individual things now. So, so this video went over like some of the different choices that you might have. So this part of the cut the cord area, when you purchase a device, there's several companies that are out there that are really selling. So there's a lot of different choices. And tomorrow night we'll sort of dig into this pretty deep, but the main choices are up here on this screen. So Apple TV has their own device that you can purchase that will get you streaming all kinds of content onto your TV. Roku is a company that you may have heard of, but if you've never streamed before, you may not know what it is. So Roku actually has the largest share in this market. They have about 40% of the devices are Roku devices. And Roku it's really all they do. They just sell media devices. Apple obviously does 1,000 other things, but Roku just sells these devices. So within the Roku family, there's 6 different products that you can buy. Chromecast is by Google, and that's sort of a whole different animal where you can you use your cell phone and as a way to navigate, and there's a lot more. It's called casting. It's sort of a different animal in and of itself. And then I mentioned Amazon Fire TV's Fire Stick. So that's the other company, the big company, Amazon. So they also have Fire Sticks. So it really depends upon your needs and what your interests are. So I have a couple of articles that you'll be able to go over and find that really cover all these different ones, which ones are good for, there's one that's good for high quality of streaming. There's another one that's good for, they talk about Apple being good for people that are Apple users and things like that. So all of these sort of depend upon, who you are and how you're using streaming services. And so again, and I'm glad this came up because we went over some of this in the video, which I haven't been able to play. So let me just add to that. So I talked about those 4 companies, but there's actually other ways of getting streaming service on your TV other than with a smart TV or with one of those 4 companies. So if you're someone that still has a disc collection and owns a Blu-ray player, most new Blu-ray players will allow you to stream. So you can play a Blu-ray on the machine, and you can also access things like Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime through a Blu-ray player. Same thing with a game console. If you have gamers in your family, or you play games and you have either a PS or an Xbox or a Nintendo, a lot of those will have the majority of streaming options on there for you. So they'll have apps for Netflix and Amazon and things like that. You might want to think about Blu-ray players and game consoles the same way you think about smart TV. So it's going to have a limited amount of apps, but it certainly will have the big players that you probably would need be interested in. And there's one other one on here, NVIDIA Shield, which is something that I haven't really heard of, but it's apparently has a huge market for gamers. So it's a really good box to get for gamers. And they have a great selection of apps for streaming media and TV. So those are all of your suggestions. There's also a link to an article down there. If you just want to look at the industry and how consumers like yourself are buying, there's an article from Fool.com, which is an investment website, and they talk about who has the most market. That's where I got the information about Roku having 40% of the market. That's actually down. The last time I did this 2 years ago, Roku was at 50% of the market. So it's actually down, which is interesting. And then here's just a photo of the different streamers. So the two photos that are in the top, the upper left is Roku, the upper right is Amazon Fire Stick. Those are both sticks. So they literally look like sort of a giant flash drive, and you just plug them into your TV, turn your TV on, and it walks you through the setup, and it's really simple. And then you can continue. Like if you keep cable and you want to stream as well, you keep all of that stuff, you just bounce back and forth from your main menu on your TV. It's pretty simple. And then the two down below, on the bottom left is the Apple product, and the bottom right, that cylinder, is the NVIDIA product that I talked about, was really good for gamers. And there's a link to an article that's really good about sort of breaking all this down, like which streamer might be best for you. And actually, in my notes at the end, I have not just one article, I have 2 or 3 really good authoritative articles on this, because this is part that can be a little confusing. Do I want to buy a device? Do I need a device? And then if I do to say I want a device, which one to get? But all of these are one-time purchases. You buy the item just like you would buy your television or your toaster, and then you're done. So that's it. So to recap, the way that you stream is either through your smart TV or through a TV with a device, a box or a stick, and that's it. So I'm going to take a pause now because we're going to move from hardware into streaming services. So once you figure out how you're going to stream, physically going to stream into your television set, whether that's through apps on your TV or whether it's through one of these devices that we just talked about, once you have that all taken care of, then you have to decide which service you're going to use to stream. So when I say which service, I'm talking about companies like Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Prime, which I've mentioned quite a bit throughout this presentation so far. So that's what we're going to jump into now, is streaming services. I'm just going to give one example from each of the 2 areas that I talk about today. And then, as I mentioned, tomorrow night, we're really going to delve deep, deep, deep into this. There's a mountain of products out there now. It used to be 1 or 2 from each category 6 years ago, and now it's sort of the floodgates have opened up, and everybody wants a piece of this. So it's really, really fascinating. So for today, we're just going to talk about, because again, I want to keep this very introductory, we're going to talk about 2 things. We're going to talk about live television, how you can get live television. So it's called either live TV or cable replacement, depending upon which article you're reading. So this is a service that gives you live television, meaning broadcast channels like the old ABC and CBS, and cable stations like TNT and CNN and Fox, just like your cable or satellite. So it gives you exactly what you're getting. It's live television, there's no delays. And I know it says 7 choices in there, but I find over the weekend I actually found another one. So there's actually 8 different companies now that are doing this. It's really, really interesting. And then the other half of this is the streaming media, which I think everybody coming into this is what you were thinking this was going to be about. So we'll spend time talking about Netflix, and we'll mention Amazon and Hulu. And then that's where we're going to take a really deep dive tomorrow night. Between the live TV, all of the 8 choices, how do you sort of differentiate those, and then the streaming media. But for today, let's just do sort of an example of each. And then I have a third point down there on the, I have a third statement there on the screen, and that is that there are some companies now that are making it a little confusing because they're becoming a hybrid company. And when I say hybrid, that's not really a word in Cut the Cord. That's just, I'm using the word hybrid because that's how I'm seeing this. So there are companies that are now giving you streaming media, and if you want, they're also going to give you live TV. And Hulu is one of those companies. They've really sort of cornered the market in this, and they've made a great product. So they have a great streaming media collection, and then they also have a live TV option for you. And you can get one or the other or both, depending upon how much money you spend or what your needs are. So again, tomorrow night, we're going to delve into a lot of that. But for today, we're going to talk just about live TV and then have one example, and then talk about streaming media and have one example. So as I mentioned, the #1 question for everyone most of the time is, how do I get my live television? I don't want to give up my local news. I don't want to give up PBS. I don't want to give up my sports, etc. So how do I get that? So there are 2 options for you to get live TV if you cancel your cable subscription. The first one may at first seem like it's an old-fashioned answer, but actually there's a lot of people that are going down this route, and there's a lot of good quality product out there. So the first option is getting an antenna. And tomorrow night, and I don't mean to keep mentioning tomorrow, but as I said, I wanted today to be more of an introduction and tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll delve really deep into all the things that you should look for if you're actually serious about buying an antenna. But for today, just keep in mind that that's one of the options. So one of the options is to buy either an indoor or an outdoor antenna for you to use and connect to your television. And then you can start getting at least the major networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, you know, either whether it's a New Haven affiliate or a Hartford affiliate, and then PBS and maybe a few others that are out there those are the channels that are broadcasting literally in the air. All of those other channels that you get on your cable, like TNN, the cable, what we used to call back in the day, like the cable channels, those are all not broadcast in the air, so those wouldn't be a part of this. But you can certainly use an antenna to give yourself local channels if that's all you're interested in, then supplementing it with some streaming service after that. And then the other way to do this is to use one of those live TV or cable replacement companies. So there used to be, when I started this 6 years ago, I just love this because to me, it's like a fascinating look at sort of American, you know, the way that companies and small businesses work in America. So 6 years ago, I started this, and there was one company that was doing this. They were offering live TV without being connected to a cable company at all. It was a company that was owned by Barry Diller. If anybody knows Barry Diller, he's a very wealthy businessman, one of the top people in the country, I suppose. So he had a company, he owns a lot of different companies. He had a company that had started this, but what they were doing was they sort of had a farm of antennas, and they were pulling the information out of the airwaves for free. Then they were packaging it, and people like me, and I did buy this for a while, people like me were buying it because I didn't want to put an antenna up and try to deal with an antenna. So for like $4.99 a month or whatever it was, I could get, you know, local TV. I could get my local TV in my area. And it worked great until the Supreme Court had to step in and say, this is totally illegal. You can't just steal this content from these companies, so you're done. So the first year I did it, we had one choice for live TV. The second year I started doing Cut the Cord, we had no choices for live TV. And then the third year, Sling TV came along, and that's the middle one that's in here that you see. And they were the first company that legally did this. So they went to all of the different channels and networks and corporations and said, we want to buy time from you. So we want to, you know, we're going to take money from people, and we want to give you some money for your time. So there was a business transaction happening. And now we've had a boom over the last, I would say, 6 or 7 years. There's now 8 companies that are doing this. So it's great because we all have really good choices on this. And then in the bottom left of this screen, you'll see a green box that says keep basic cable. So one of your options when you're thinking about, do I get rid of cable or do I not get rid of cable, I mentioned early on in the program, you can decide, I'm going to pare my cable down to the lowest possible, the most inexpensive and lowest amounts of channels I can possibly do, and then I will add in some other streaming services, and I'll make that sort of my package. So that is an option if you want to do that. But if you want to get rid of cable 100% completely, your choices are either an antenna or a cable replacement service like Sling or YouTube TV or Watch AT&T, one of the 8 big companies. So I said I would do one example from each. So for live TV, I'm going to pick Sling. And I have a very strong reason to pick Sling because they are currently offering what I consider to be the best free trial service that you could ever imagine possible. So Sling TV, as I mentioned, was the first company to do this legally a number of years ago, and they have really, I've got to tell you, I've tried them twice over the last, 7 or 8 years or so. And the first time I tried them, it was pretty bad. The second time I tried them was during the 2016 election because I thought I should really try to watch some news and not just read it online. And it was still like the connections were a little choppy and you'd get buffering and it wasn't always perfect. So I just tried it again because they have this brand new thing and it works really great now. So I think that all of the kinks have been worked out of all of this and all the companies have figured it out. And as far as getting a good signal when you're doing this, it works just like cable. It really works well. So Sling TV has, and again, I'm not getting any compensation for this, but this is a great deal, so I'm going to tell you guys about it. So Sling TV, during this time of the COVID virus that we're all staying at home or staying in place, they are offering what they're calling happy hour across America. So you can sign up for a free trial for Sling TV, and they will give you free television from 5 p.m. until midnight, 7 days a week. So you're not getting anything during the day, you're not getting anything overnight, but from 5 p.m. until midnight, you can watch as much as you want. So this is really a good way to test one of these out to see if you like them, to see if you like the DVR, because there's a DVR built into this. And there's the great thing about this trial is that there's no credit card required. So you don't have to sign up and then 3 days later hurry and before they charge your card. None of that happens. To them, I think this is just a great way for them to advertise. Their revenues have doubled since COVID has started, and this is sort of their way of giving back. Of course, it's always also a great way to get people hooked on Sling. But to me, it's a really good way of, if you're sort of wondering what's out there in the live TV arena aside from your cable, you can check out Sling and look at that. So Sling TV is normally $30 a month, and they have 2 different packages for $30 a month. So they have one set of channels, and then the other package has another set of channels. And then if you want both packages, you can do for $45, they'll give you both packages. So this is what they're currently doing with the happy hour, the free trial. So it's 50 plus live channels. There's 50,000 on-demand movies and TV shows. They have a free cloud DVR embedded in it that can allow you to record up to 10 hours at a time. And you can watch it for 3 screens simultaneously. So those are all the different, see if I can increase the size here. So you can see some of the different, so it's got the 3 main cable networks, news networks, CNN, MSNBC, and Fox. It's got things like FX and Travel and Vice and BBC America, Comedy Central, FX. So it's got some really great options there for you. So that's happy hour with Sling, and that's just one of the 8 companies that do that. Tomorrow night, I'm going to give you some tools tomorrow night that's going to allow you to really compare these companies and dig a lot deeper into what your needs are and which companies would best serve those needs. So we have I have some really great charts to show tomorrow night with that. Okay, so that was live TV. Now we're going to talk about streaming media, which again, as I mentioned, is probably what most people think about when they think about cutting the cord. They think about, oh, Netflix, Amazon Prime. So what are all these services? So obviously, the one I'm going to choose is just the grandparent of all streaming services, which is Netflix. So most of you probably remember that Netflix started out destroying the entire video rental business in the United States. So they started out with a mail order DVD catalog, and they literally probably gave the United States Postal Service a massive amount of money over those years. There still is a small arm of Netflix that does DVD mail ordering, and a lot of that actually is classics. So if you're someone who loves classic films from the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and you still have a player and you love playing discs, I'm going to talk more about this tomorrow, but I'm a huge, I have a Blu-ray player. I have my own collection of discs and I love discs. But this is a way to get some of those movies, because a lot of those movies have not been picked up by the big streamers like Netflix, or they haven't been picked up to be remastered. So they're just not available. Netflix currently has 4,000 films and 2,000 television shows. So there's a lot of content on these to watch. So basically, again, to sort of bring it back to really simple ideas, what you're doing is you are, once you have a television set, which obviously most people do, and you've got that internet connection, then you want to purchase one of these services. And Netflix is, like I said, is sort of the grandparent of this. So once you purchase Netflix, then you can go into Netflix anytime, day or night, and just select from those 6,000 items. You can select any item and just start playing it. It's like a huge on-demand library of content. Some of the great things about Netflix is that Netflix was one of the first, or probably the first, that started original content. So Netflix has their own television shows. They have their own studios. They produce their own content. So there's a lot of shows over the last, I would say, 10 years that have been produced by Netflix. And there's a lot of current favorites that people love that you might be talking to people about that. But the thing with all of this is that each of the original content is only available on that platform. So Netflix has their original content, Hulu has theirs, Amazon Prime has theirs. So they don't share original content. They will purchase movies and other TV shows from other production companies and other distribution companies, but not their own. Netflix has a massive amount of original programming, and it also is one of the first streamers in the US to start importing a huge amount of foreign television, which is really, really cool. You can get really great sort of spy espionage Israeli TV shows. You can get quirky sort of Danish TV shows. You can get telenovelas from Mexico. Just all kinds of content, and really just some really fascinating stuff. A lot of British shows and shows from Ireland. So there's English-speaking shows from other countries as well. So it's just a huge, huge, huge amount of information and of media available through Netflix. So those are kind of the two things. It's the live TV and then your streaming services. So Netflix is, like I said, is the big, it's the one that started it, and it's really the one that everybody's trying to beat. But there's also a lot of other things that are involved with streaming services. So it's not just those big, gigantic companies. So all of the premium channels that used to be on cable that were only available with a cable subscription they now have separate independent arms where you can just pay a monthly subscription and get. So HBO is available that way. Showtime is available. Epix, Stars, all of those premium channels are now available independently of a cable subscription. So if you're somebody that's a huge HBO nut and you're afraid to let go of your cable, you don't have to worry about that anymore, because HBO has their own that you can buy. It's $15 a month for HBO. The networks are also offering their own streaming channels. Some of them started out offering free content on an app, but it was limited information. But CBS has kind of changed that game. So CBS started their own app or their own channel called CBS All Access. And it has access to a huge library of CBS shows that have been produced over the decades. But it also is doing something really interesting. It's following in the footsteps of Netflix and the other big streamers in that it's producing content that is only available through CBS All Access. So there are now television shows that if you have cable and you can get, or if you have a cable replacement and you can get a CBS channel, you're still not going to be able to watch certain shows because they want you to also purchase CBS All Access. So I believe Star Trek Discovery, The Good Fight, and the new Picard Star Trek, I think, are all only on CBS All Access, if I remember that correctly. As I mentioned, a lot of the cable channels do offer free apps, but they have limited on demand because they really want you to either buy a cable subscription or now buy live TV from somebody else. But those can be fun things to do, and it's ways to get free content. So you don't always have to buy content through a big a big streamer like Netflix. And then sports is something that we're going to talk about in a little bit more depth tomorrow night, but Sling does have ESPN on there, so that's available. And then tomorrow night we'll talk about the issues with sports, because sports is one of those things that, depending upon how much sports you watch, there's going to be a tipping point of whether you can really give up cable or not. So more on all of that tomorrow. So now I want to close with, and then we can answer some questions as well. So I want to wrap up with cost, because I think that is on everyone's mind. So as I mentioned in the beginning, I have not had cable for 12 years. So I'm not somebody that's leaving behind a $200 or $300 bill and getting a huge savings. So this is something that I've just accrued over the years. So I started out very, very simply 12 years ago. And now today, this is what my sort of layout looks like. So my monthly internet bill is through Optimum, and it's $86.82. So I'm paying Optimum just for internet, and it's $86.82. It was $50 a month when I started Cut the Cord, but obviously that slide I showed where 56% or 54% of the population is going to be without cable, they're going to try to make this up any way they can. And one of the ways they're going to make it up is they're going to really jack up the internet prices. So that's just sort of the way of the world here with this. They also offer deals. So you might find a deal where they give you internet plus like a small amount of cable channels, and it might be a better deal than just buying the internet. And sometimes these deals last for 1 or 2 years. So you could sort of ride that deal out at least until the end. And then when they jack the prices up, you can think about other options at that point. But for me personally, right now, it's $86.82. That's the bulk of what I pay for the month. Then I have Netflix, which we just spoke about. So Netflix has 3 different pricing plans. I chose the in-between pricing plan because that's the one that I can get with HD, which means I'm seeing stuff in high definition. So Netflix is that's the standard plan. It's $12.99. It gives me 2 screens, and I can also download 2 devices. So there's that. And then Amazon Prime, I also have, and I purchased that not just for the content, the media content, but I also purchased it because I'm a big Amazon user. So I get 2-day free shipping and lots of other stuff, music and a number of books and things like that. So Amazon Prime ends up, you pay it yearly. I think you can also pay it monthly, but I pay it yearly. So that comes out to $9.92 a month for Amazon Prime. And Hulu is my last thing that I purchased. So I didn't have Hulu. Hulu's like a little bit differently. Hulu's a little different as far as and I'm seeing some questions coming in here. So just give me a second, because I'm going to wrap up with Hulu, and then we'll go back and answer those questions. Mainly it's about what the connectivity is for Optimum. So Hulu is a little bit of a different animal here because I did not have Hulu. So what I did was a long time ago, a couple years ago, I decided I really wanted a robust music service. So I decided to upgrade to Spotify Premium. So Spotify is one of the streaming music services. And, if you think about it in really simplistic terms, Pandora gives you radio content because it sort of like plays music like it's a radio station. And Spotify gives you sort of that old style album content. So you go and you save certain bands or certain performers, and then you go and you listen to their albums. So I decided I didn't want commercials and I didn't want limited access to the albums. I wanted the whole thing. So I ended up buying Spotify Premium a couple years ago for $9.99. And then a year ago, Hulu came out with this announcement saying that if you join Spotify Premium, we will give you Hulu free. And I was like, well, I've already got Spotify Premium. So I went and checked, and sure enough, I was able to hook up. So now I have Spotify Premium and Hulu together for $9.99 a month, which was the same price as regular Spotify Premium. Hulu, the thing with Hulu through Spotify is that it gives me Hulu with limited commercials, which is their cheapest package. I am not a big commercial person, which is why I stay away from cable TV in the first place. But I find that I can manage this because I just sort of mute the TV, and the movies tend to not show commercials, but the TV shows tend to show like a series of commercials throughout the half-hour or hour-long TV. but I just get through it. And I have to tell you, there's some really great content on Hulu, so it's been fun to get that. You know, Netflix and Amazon are the two giants, and then Hulu has been this sort of David that's been, you know, chipping away at the giants. So it's been fun to watch that, and their original content's been very creative. So that's it. That totals to just under $120 a month. So that's me. And as I mentioned, that might not be you. This may be really off from what you're looking for, but this is what satisfies me. I'm not a big, I don't care so much about the network TV shows, or if I wanted to watch them, I could watch them at a later date because Hulu picks up a lot of those like after they're already aired. But I'm really happy with this. So a couple of quick tips, and then I'll answer some questions. So this is just, again, to sort of wrap up. So these are some suggestions that came from Tom's Guide, which is another great resource out there for you to get information about cutting the cord. It's the man's name, Tom, so it's T-O-M-S Guide, G-U-I-D-E. So some of the quick tips, consider investing in an HD antenna, which we mentioned, and again, tomorrow night we'll go into some detail about what to look for with that. Consider a cable replacement service. So we talked about Sling, but there's a lot of others out there, and again, we'll delve into that more tomorrow. Pick the best streaming device for your needs. So Roku might be better for you than Amazon's Fire Stick, and there's some articles at the end that you can look at. Check your smart TV, because you might want to just use the smart TV and the apps that are on that. Subscribe to the best streaming services. That's a very loaded question because there's so many of them out there that you can literally spend probably twice as much on your monthly bill as you would now with the cable. So I would actually say be careful how many streaming services you pick up. Find a way to stream to your own content. This last one is something that I don't do, but if you are someone who collects a lot of photographs, has a lot of videos jumping around within your family, and if you want to be able to watch these things on your big TV in your living room or your bedroom, you might want to consider a service. They list Plex here, P-L-E-X, as one of the services. It's an app that you can get. Most of its features are free, and it allows you to import and organize all of your video and image content. So all of your photos into photo albums, and then all your videos, your home videos that way. All right, so let me just open up the chat box and see what kind of questions we had.
If people want to raise their hands too, we can do it that way. I don't know if you hover in your right-hand corner of your picture, there's 3 dots, and I think you can press a raise your hand also if you don't want to type it in.
I'll go ahead and start with the first question until we get some hands. Can you use the sticks in multiple TV sets? I believe you can. I haven't really checked in on that, but you'd have to unplug them and plug them back in, and I think that would be a bit awkward. But sure, I think I think you could easily, because I know people take them on vacation with them sometimes. So yeah, you can use them in multiple TV sets, but one stick does not, I don't know if, I'm not sure about this question. So if the question was that good, if the question was, can one stick operate multiple sets in your house? The answer to that is no. You have to get a device for each physical television set. I'm using, somebody asked me what internet speed I'm using, 200, 300, or 400. It's the lowest. So I'm using 200, but I'm also in a 2-person household in a small place with a limited amount of devices that are on the internet, but every year that goes up. But I would say we have 1 TV, 2 phones, 2 Amazon Paperwhites, and 1 tablet that doesn't get used hardly at all. Oh, and I'm sorry, and 2 computers. So actually it is more. But the TV is really close to where the modem and the router are. So that, I believe, helps. But yeah, I don't have any problems with streaming, having the lowest service. I guess it really just depends upon where you live, what kind of house you have, and, what the walls are made of, and things like that. Do you not have live TV, or is that included in the optimum bill? That's a very good question. So I'm currently doing that free Sling TV just so that I can check it out, and that's been fun. But under normal circumstances, I do not have any live TV. I don't really care so much about watching live TV, and I'm somebody who, if I like a TV show, I don't mind waiting 6 months after everybody else has watched it for Netflix or Amazon to buy it from the network, which they normally do, or Hulu. So I don't mind doing that. So that Optimum bill that I mentioned is literally just my internet. That $86 is just my internet. Do you know if Optimum will allow another household member to sign up for better new customer, cheaper deal? I heard someone was successful with that recently. I do not have the answer to that question, sorry. Don't know. Does Hulu cover your live TV? So that question, I wonder if the person that asked that question, Kathy, I won't say your last name, does Hulu cover your live TV? Do you want to clarify that question, or do you want me to answer the way I think it is? Are you still here, Kathy? You can unmute yourself if you want to talk too.
Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me now?
I can, yes. How are you?
Good. Thank you. I thought before, and I guess I probably misunderstood. I thought you were saying something before about hybrids, and some streaming companies provide live TV. Did you say Hulu does provide live TV, or did I misunderstand that?
No, that's a very good question. So, right. So when I had that slide up before, I talked about live TV, and then I talked about the streamers like Netflix. And then I said there are some companies now that are doing both. So Hulu is the main company. So Hulu, you can have Hulu streaming service, which I have. That's when I talk about at the end with the cost, that's what I have, Hulu streaming. Or you can do Hulu live TV, or you can do both.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. So that's your choice there. Yeah. So the one that I have is literally just a streamer service. Okay. So I have access to everything that's in their library, but I can't get live TV from that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Let's see.
Philip, somebody's asking about PBS, and I know you know the answer to that.
I do. Yeah. So it's interesting. PBS has always been this like really persnickety issue. I can remember almost every live in-person cut the cord class I've had, somebody comes up to me and says afterwards and says, all I want to do is be able to watch PBS. And I'm like, oh, no, you can't do that without cable or an antenna. So the ways to get PBS are you can do an antenna and get it from CTTV in Connecticut, which I believe is in Hartford, or you can continue to get it through your cable company. Now, up until last December, I was able, like myself and other cord cutters, we have there's a PBS app that's either on your live TV, I'm sorry, not live TV, it's either on your smart TV in the apps, or if you buy like a Roku player or an Apple TV or something, it's going to be in there. So you can download the PBS app. The PBS's app is great. You can go in, you can watch things, and everything is free. It's all on demand. There's nothing live, so you can't like watch the news hour live, but it's on demand. So you can watch things afterwards. The problem with that is that because PBS is constantly trying to, make money because they're nonprofit and keep themselves afloat, they normally shows last for 2 weeks, and then it goes to their pay service, which it's called Passport. So Passport is like purchasing a year-long subscription to Netflix or Amazon Prime. So you pay, I think, $70 a year, and it's literally like giving a donation to PBS, like when they have their fundraising, but you're giving it specifically to Passport. And then Passport opens up, once you have that, it opens up all the content so that you have their whole library. So for instance, just to give you a real world example, I'm in the middle of watching World on Fire, which is a great new World War II PBS drama. I do not have Passport. I just have the free app on my TV. So I literally have to make sure I watch the new episodes within that 2-week period, or else they go away. Now, the last thing I wanted to mention was, after saying all of that, somebody just mentioned, I think PBS Passport cost is tax deductible. I'm sure that's true because it's literally a donation to PBS. So saying all of that, I just found some really great news when I was updating these two PowerPoints for today and tomorrow. PBS just went into they just entered an agreement with YouTube TV. So YouTube TV is, now I'm not talking about YouTube, the free YouTube, I'm talking about their live TV service that they call YouTube TV. So in December, PBS entered into a service agreement with them. So if you have YouTube TV as your live TV service, you can now get your local PBS station, which I think is really cool. So you can actually get CPTV through YouTube TV. So that's a very convoluted answer to your question, right? I hope that answers everybody's question.
Philip, did you see the one, how did you get sign up for Sling on your smart TV?
Oh, that's a great question. So all you have to do, well, let me think for a minute, because I'm pretty sure I just went to my smart TV. You can go to your smart TV and do a search for the Sling app, download it, and when you open it up, it says happy hour with Sling, sign up for free. So that's literally, like, normally every one of these companies has either a 7-day or 14-day or so, or 1 month, some of them if you're lucky, free trial. So right now for Sling TV, this is their free trial. So you sign up for it. And like I said, there's no credit card. You just download the app, register with your email address and maybe a name, but there's no personal information at all. It's great. No, it's not your name. It's an email address and a password. That's all it is. So.
All right. Somebody asked, what option would you pick if you want to have streaming and network TV shows in real time with DVR capability?
I'm not going to answer that question because there's way too many options to choose from. So if you can make it tomorrow night, whoever asked that question, if you can make it tomorrow night, feel free to come tomorrow night, because I'm going to lay out a lot of good choices for articles to go to look at all these different services, because as I mentioned, there's 8 different companies now, and there's lots of different reasons why you might want something over something else. So I'm going to talk about all the features that they have, like DVR capabilities and all that. So I have a big chart with all 8 of the companies and all of their features that they offer, like how many simultaneous users and all that stuff. And then I also have another chart that I found that shows all of the local channels for Hartford and New Haven. And no matter where you are in the country, if you're visiting us from somewhere else in the country, which I hope some of our viewers here are, you can use this. It's a huge Excel spreadsheet, and I have a link to it in the thing. And you can go and look up all your local channels, because that's another big thing for people. It's how do I get my local channels if I'm not on cable? There's a way to do that now. Almost all the major live TV offer that for a lot of the country now.
Are you familiar with GoNet Speed?
I am not familiar with that. If that is a way for you to determine your current speed for your Wi-Fi, yeah, I've used services like that, and they are good. So, but I'm not sure what that is.
And I'm not sure if we answered Jan's question of what is YouTube.
So earlier when I was talking about live TV, like the two things, there's the 2 streaming areas that we really want to focus on are live TV, and I showed the example of Sling. So live TV is one thing, which is giving you live channels just like you have on cable. The other thing is all the streaming libraries, which is like Netflix and Amazon Prime. So YouTube TV is one of those choices. There's 8 companies that are offering live TV. So it's Sling, the one that I went over. It's YouTube TV, it's Hulu TV, it's Fubo, and there's a couple others as well that AT&T has their own service. So again, tomorrow night I'm going to cover all of those in detail and talk more about those. And if for some reason you can't make that, you can always shoot me an email, and I'm more than happy to answer individual questions as well. So let me just flip this to the end so you can see the email. So these are just some resources. And again, I'm going to email this out to everybody after tomorrow night. Those are some major resources that I use. And this is a huge list. It's not just what you see. It scrolls way, way down. These are all the resources that I use to make both of these PowerPoints. And there's my contact information. So Claudia, is there anything else that I've forgotten?
Somebody told us that GoNet Speed is a new internet service, so that could be very interesting.
Oh, wow. That'd be great.
And then what time are you presenting tomorrow? Which I said 6:30 tomorrow night.
Correct. Yeah. So you just have to go back into our Fairfield Public Libraries, anywhere on the website, you can find our calendar, and then just go to Tuesday night at 6:30, and you need to register because the way you're getting the link, just like you did for today's, is through the email list. So any other questions?
No,
Oh,
but thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you all so much. I know these can be very strange because you can't really, you can raise your hand, but we're learning so much in this virtual world. So I really hope everyone stays safe and healthy, to you and your families and your loved ones. And thank you so much for spending this hour with me. If you have any questions, send, email or phone us. And thank you again so much. And I hope to see a lot of you tomorrow night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.